Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today I'm stoked to have Mike Hranica from the Devil Wears Prada join the podcast. Prada's new album, Color Decay, is out today on Solid State Records. Mike talks about the metalcore scene they came up in and its popularity, signing with Solid State Records, the process of writing Color Decay, the themes behind the lyrics, and more. I'm a huge fan of Color Decay, and it was great getting to chat with Mike. So I hope you guys enjoy getting to hear from Mike Hranica from The Devil Wears Prada. You grew up in Ohio. What was growing up like for you?
You know, I didn't love Ohio. I've been a rather inward person my whole life, so school wasn't the easiest for me. But you know, I kind of found my voice in heavy music and ended up joining the band out of coincidence, basically. And yeah, here we are.
What got you into music?
I mean, when heavier stuff came on the radio, like Slipknot and whatnot, I just felt drawn to, the more aggressive, the better. And I was raised loosely around the Christian church, and I ended up relating well to sort of youth group and other Christian bands and whatnot, which informed much of my youth. But yeah, it's always just been that like bit of catharsis for me to express myself and to sort of find my voice, you know, coming through my teen years.
Yeah. Were you always drawn to like the frontman role, to screaming?
Not entirely. Like looking back to like the bands I dug, I definitely took to the frontman often, but I started playing guitar shortly before, about a year before I joined Prada. So I've always been interested, in the instrumentation side of things, and I continue as a avid guitar collector and fan to this day. So it wasn't always trying to be, you know, the singer frontman, but I've always loved writing. So I think what drew me most to the frontman role in Prada was being able to write lyrics.
Yeah. Were you writing like poetry before then, or short stories or something?
Yeah, pretty much. English literature was my shtick in high school, and I've always been a big reader. So yeah, it was kind of just like I had these ideas I would float around and, you know, try to express myself, release, and being able to, you know, put it to song was quite the fit.
Yeah. Were you in other bands before you joined Prada?
I was not. I knew Chris, who was one of the original guitar players in Prada and did a lot of our writing through the years, but him and I had like a kind of joke band. Never played shows, never had more than a song or two. But that was just something we kind of goofed around with, and then it kind of informed my voice in terms of being able to sing for Prada.
Yeah. How'd you end up joining?
So I was just around band practice because I knew the guys and I was a fan of the tunes they were writing as a local band. And there was this other dude that was trying out as a vocalist, and he's like, I don't know the song. And they're like, just do anything, like just scream or something. And he wasn't doing anything. So I was like, oh, I know the song. I'll show it to you. And I just kind of did it. And the rest of the guys were just impressed enough to ask me to join them.
Did the band already have the name when you joined, or did that come after you joined?
They already named it. It was not of my doing.
Okay, that came from the novel, right?
That it did. Not of my doing, nor of my approval.
But it stuck.
That it did. And as much as I like to belittle it, I'm sure it's worked in our favor more often than once.
Right. Somebody Googles it and you guys pop up, or I don't know, maybe it works the opposite way where the movie comes up or the book or something.
I do not know. I know we haven't been sued, so I'm thankful.
Yeah. How'd you guys end up on Rise Records?
So as we started getting, all of our shit together as a band and started playing shows and whatnot, and having, enough songs to play shows, Chris kind of coincidentally just reached out, and we hadn't built like a press packet yet or anything to start submitting ourselves to labels, but Chris sent us into Rise kind of just as there's no way this is going to turn into anything. And then sure enough, Craig at the time was very interested and, had a contract going shortly thereafter.
What led you guys to Joey Sturgis?
So Joey just played in bands around the scene, more so in Eastern Indiana, which isn't very far from Dayton, Ohio, where we were all growing up. And just to my recollection, we were playing a coffee house, and he was playing in a kind of beat down band, and he liked what we were doing, and he had recorded his band and was interested in engineering, producing, mixing bands, and he offered us to do our EP for I think $200 or something, not even. And yeah, it just kind of took off from there, and he was able to attract a whole sort of scene of, that era, Warped Tour bands, Rise Records bands, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, you guys were kind of the first, and then it exploded, and people refer to that whole scene as Joey Sturgis core now.
It's not untrue. I think the only thing I see mainly is that Joey was doing a lot of writing for other bands where we were coming in with our own songs, and Chris had written, and the rest of the guys too, but we had songs and whatnot. Joey certainly informed a lot of the early synths and whatnot until John, our present keyboard player and band member, came into the picture. Joe is doing a lot of that sort of additional, synth and keyboard production. But, otherwise we're coming in with songs that were pretty much all the way there.
Was there any... So I remember seeing the video for, I don't remember if it was HTML Rules or Hey John, but I just remember that whole scene and that time around Plagues and the neon pink shirts with the band name from neck to navel and the weird song title names. Did that just come from what was the influence around that? Was it something that Rise was inspiring and encouraging bands to do, or was it just young and not knowing, and that was there something happening in Ohio that the rest of us didn't get or the older generation missed out on?
I mean, it was certainly rather flamboyant and much flashier than, I wish to think of now. But I think it was just being a scene kid, the Hot Topic generation and such. I always thought goofy song titles, Under Oath was doing sort of haphazard names, and same with I don't know, all over the board from Dillinger Escape Plan to Horse the Band and whatnot. So I certainly don't think we were the pioneers of stupid song titles. I think it was just a nice release for us, not taking ourselves too seriously. As the songs have always had a certain level of seriousness to them, for sure. But at the same time, we're tend to be rather a comical group.
Were you surprised by how the scene kind of took off, the way in which it exploded, and you guys and Attack and that whole Christcore, Miss May I, all those bands ended up finding a footing and being popular and owning the metalcore scene there?
I don't know. I certainly never related to many of our peers across the record label and different management companies we've worked with. I've never been much of a fan, but I mean, to think of like those early Warped Tour days and the amount of people we got to play to is rather bizarre. It's funny now as I've gotten older and, you know, coming up into my mid-30s and whatnot, you meet people at like the hardware store and they'll be like, oh yeah, you know, back in the day, this or that. I was, you know, and it's like, it puts you know, a face to the name as far as people that were involved in the scene back then, and, you know, different tastes change and whatnot, but it's fun and it's, you know, obviously still rewarding for me to play in this band and experience the resurgence we're having now with the new material and the like.
The first time that I listened to a Devil Wears Prada album and was like a legitimate fan was the Zombie EP. Was there something with signing to Ferret or just like something you guys wanted to do? It's hard to be like, the Devil Wears Prada went serious when, you know, it's an EP about zombies, but it's definitely like there's a tonal shift in that EP.
For sure. The thing that when we were doing with Roots Above and doing the Zombie EP, we were just kind of always blanketed in like a screamo band, and I never considered the band as such. You know, coming from the influence of different face down bands, Trust Kill bands and whatnot, I wanted to, I don't know, sort of strive forward more as like, no, this is metalcore. This isn't like a post-hardcore type of deal. But in terms of labels, we've never had a label tell us what to do. We have a great relationship with Solid State Records these days, and our A&R Adam, who's just the man. And he certainly informs his opinion in terms of like what might be getting a music video, what, you know, how the artwork vibes and whatnot. But we've never had a label say like, you should do this or like, don't do that. Like we've kind of just done what we want to do and have the deliverables.
Yeah. What led you guys to Solid State?
So a number of years ago when we came out of Ferret was bought out and we were just within like kind of the major label world and kind of getting tossed around with Roadrunner and whatnot and different, basically teams within the ILG independent label group. We wanted to go back to an indie or, you know, something we were familiar with, which was Rise Records. And they ended up getting bought out, and the experience wasn't as shipshape as what it was when we were kids. But before we had signed to Rise, Solid State had shown a tremendous level of interest in the band. So when we put out, what was it? I think Transit Blues, and the Space EP, we were then comfortable to move right over to Solid State as they were still very much interested in the band. And we've re-upped with the label as far as, you know, having a great experience with the act and then putting Z2 out and during COVID and everything. And now obviously everything leading up with Color Decay. So, it's, I know it seems as though it doesn't happen often, but we do have a wonderful relationship with Solid State, and they treat us just splendidly.
Nice. What was there any trepidation in signing with Solid State? I know, like, when the act came out, you had done some interviews where, like, you were at that time the only Christian in the band. Was there any, like, hesitation of going with the label that is not really a Christian label anymore in the way it used to be, but still gets like perceived that way? I mean, you guys had songs on like Billboard's Hot Christian Song charts during the act.
It is weird. And we certainly, now that after COVID and the years of Donald Trump and all of us resigning our Christian faith or retiring, as I sometimes refer to it, I just never have had like something with Solid State where like I know that, you know, there's obviously a real history there with Solid State, but I don't think it's ever been mentioned once in terms of our conversations with Adam or the rest of the team there. So I know, there's the history there and whatnot, but it just it really, I don't think, has much of an impact on what they're trying to do. And you see the other bands on the label, and there's certainly a path there in terms of the Christian faith and whatnot, but I don't know. I don't approach anything as being Christian or non-Christian. I've kind of, I mean, since I was, 16 or 17, been able to develop enough perspective as to, liking something, whether it's coming from a voice that's different than mine or not. And that paired with, again, the resignation of my belief in religion and such. So, I don't know. I know what Solid State was. I know what it is, and it's just, it is kind of funny though, somewhat ironic, I guess, as far as like Chemical on a Christian chart or something like that.
Right. I just remember finding out like Coalesce almost signed to Solid State, and I was like, fuck, I couldn't listen to Coalesce because they weren't on Solid State, but they were that close and it would have been okay.
I've never heard that. That's really interesting.
How did COVID hit you guys? I mean, the act kind of came out, what was that, late 2019, or was that pretty early 2019?
It was towards the back half of 2019.
Yeah.
We got to do one headline tour. We had started a support tour. We got to do Europe with our friends and Stray from the Past, but everyone got screwed in some way or another. Some bands less so in terms of being at the end of their record cycle, and other bands just starting a new record cycle. But I don't know. Now looking back in retrospect, it was a deeply miserable period of time. We did everything we could, both professionally and creatively, as far as coming up with the Z2 idea and trying to pay the bills with doing live streams and just for any kind of social interaction. We had a podcast for a number of months, and we were just cranking those out because it was like, I don't know, I couldn't even see people at the grocery store, so it was brutal. It's still obviously a part of our daily lives and conversation, but it was very interesting as far as getting sent home from tour and being like, okay, what do I do now? And just start applying for jobs, or obviously before finding out about the band never took any grants, but the different relief that was issued from the federal government and whatnot, and helping out, and hopefully that was enough pandemic within our lifetimes to not revisit it ever again.
What led you guys' decision to do the second Zombie EP, to do Z2?
I think it might have been Kyle's idea to do a 10-inch or a 7-inch of doing two new Zombie songs as far as singles. During COVID, he had just moved to Kansas City and was temporarily living with John in his house. So the two of them and their partners were all locked up together during quarantine and everything. And at least from my perception, I think it was just like, well, we can write more than two songs, and we have nothing but time to write more songs. And it was all a bit of a celebration around 10 years of the Zombie EP, and having what was a pretty sort of haphazard idea in, I think, 2009, as far as like we had just seen Zombie World or something in theaters, and we're like, what if we wrote songs about that? Like, that'd be fun. Like, Chris has always had them, and like he would write songs and just have a name that was like Snakes or something like that, like kind of that inspired the instrumentation or the instrumental of the song. And getting to do the Zombie EP, he kind of just took off with it and flew, and we had a bunch of songs. And obviously the band's a much different place now, and having Kyle involved, John involved, Giuseppe and Mason, it's cool to do, a present rendition of where the band's at now and celebrating the past, but also trying to, progress past it. And, I don't know, something for old and new fans alike.
Color Decay comes out September 16th. How did COVID affect the writing process of this record and kind of what you wanted to do? I mean, coming off of Z2, this record, like that record EP is so heavy and kind of pays homage to the original. This one really, there's a lot more melody, space, atmosphere on the full length.
Yeah, I don't know if it was so much COVID contingent as far as how the band writes songs these days. John is the producer and like the master manipulator of how the songs start, how they end, and even taking other people's ideas and evolving them. So it's all very electronic, and I know we're not the only band to be doing such as, most of the band lives in Kansas City, but I mean, half the band is not, or so, I guess not even most of the band, but half in Kansas City, half not. So, it's a lot of emails and Dropbox or Google Drive and all that jazz. As far as sharing ideas and whatnot, I am a complete Neanderthal when it comes to working a computer, recording anything. So when John has an instrumental for me or a track, or he writes much more of the melodies than I write. So he'll just like hum different melodies and I'll write a lyric to it. Or if he has an entire chorus all written out and explains the theme of the song to me, then I say I add the salt and pepper as far as filling in a verse or filling in the bridge or something like that, or kind of critiquing John's idea to maybe add some of that spice to it. Most that happens sending songs back and forth, or in the case of Color Decay, a lot of the record being written and most of the record being recorded in a Airbnb outside Palm Springs out in California. So, it's just locking into that mode, whether it's me sitting here at my kitchen table in Milwaukee or John and I in his home studio in Kansas City, or if we get a rental property somewhere to actually hash out ideas and record them. Yeah.
What was driving the lyrical content on this record for you? Was it just like themes John was coming up with and you adding to them, or were like their influences from books or just what was happening in the world?
Certainly a level of what's been happening in the world politically. I think I mask it. People will say like, oh, we don't want a liberal TDWP record or something, but I think it'd be hard proven for someone to take what I've written and see something dramatically, progressive about it or left leaning. I think maybe the most forthright I've been about it is Gun Control, and that was records ago on Transit Blues. But I mean, there's certainly essences of what this country perceives race as, and everything that's happened since the murder of George Floyd and the explosion of Black Lives Matter, and then from that to like the absolute bullshit that is Fox News. Like, I'll certainly touch on themes of that here and there, but again, I'm never going to be too on the nose with it. So there's certainly a percentage of that on the record, but at the same time, there's a lot of sort of notions of defeatism that John and I have written about, and a breakup I went through during COVID. I don't know. I I think if I had the record or the track listing out in front of me, I might be able to break down the percentage of what I had started versus what I had finished with John, and even some of the songs that are 99 or even 100% John. But yeah, you know, the idea of Color Decay is that of disintegration and the sort of the dilapidation of something once bright and promising, and the sort of defeatist perspective at, you know, mental health or the certain ailments we face on a daily basis.
Listening to the discography as I did, like, I can hear the way this transitions, but I've, like, with the singles you've released far, have fans been, like, on this journey with you and cool and, like, stoked, or people are just like, I mean, I'm sure there's always that one guy who's like, I wish they still were fucking heavy or whatever, but, like, what's the reception been?
I mean, I'm not a comment reader online.
Okay.
I try to stay away from that. It's inevitable you'll hear some things. Always the complaint that we're not heavy, I kind of laugh at, as far as I'll look at a song like The Thread on the Act, and, you know, if you think that Color Decay isn't heavy, I'd say, like, listen to Hallucinate, or, you know, the single that's coming out, Finish, is heavy, and I think there are plenty of moments. I think that the record opens with a bang in terms of a lot of pace, a lot of groove. John always perceives things as whether it grooves or not, and always about the vibe as far as what the song is doing. So I don't know, looking at it being heavy or not heavy just seems so damn one-dimensional to me.
Right,
sort of, you know, having the blinders up. But again, if you listen to something like Hallucinate or listen back on certain moments of the Act and Transit Blues, it's like, the shit is heavy, you know, but
yeah,
we just don't want to write a With Roots Above record that's riff, rather than utilizing Jeremy's voice in the way that we do, and utilizing what we can do as a band as far as writing a song like Chemical, or some of the other singles that will later be coming out for Color Decay.
Yeah. Has there been, like, maybe it's on the label side, but a real, like, thoughtful decision in the singles coming out, especially, like, you know, Salt, that features Jeremy so heavily on vocals, and, like, him taking so much of the vocal lead on this record?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a tool that we can use, so why not use it? As I mentioned, you know, early on in our discussion, I love playing guitar. I've always dreamed at the idea of playing guitar more than singing even, and not having to, you know, deal with my voice and what comes with screaming every night. So anytime I get to play guitar and Jeremy takes the lead, and as far as, like, a song like Salt or a song like Chemical, like, I'm all about it. It's just a tool that we use, and, you know, if you're listening from Dear Love up to Color Decay, the fundamental that is always there, besides, you know, heavy guitars and whatnot, and synths and additional production, is Jeremy and I's voices. And we kind of run our band as, you know, that you can complain about a member change or whatever, but the core of the band is always been the same as far as Jeremy and I's voices. I don't say that as a conceited point, but just, you know, that's where, after half my life being in this band and doing this alongside Jeremy, like, that's what we see, and that's what we write to, and John works towards. So I don't know. The label has a little bit of an influence. Management has always had more of an influence as far as knowing the songs better and whatnot. And we have a great relationship since moving over to Tandem Management, where we're at now. And I don't know. I think we've got a few more music videos all recorded and being finished up and edited, but I'd be really excited if a song like Hallucinate blew up, or a song like Cancer, which, for those that have heard the record, have spoken highly of consistently. And I think Trapped is one of my favorite songs from the record. I think it's the best Prada chorus we've ever come up with, or John has come up with. So I don't know. I'd be really excited if, you know, the songs continue to grow, and even the singles we've already picked out, if there can be additional ones from, you know, the fans and the listeners' perspective that we can cater to. either with music videos or performing live.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, my favorite Prada records have been like Zombie, Space, Z2, and then like this is probably the first full length that I've connected with and been like, this shit is amazing. So I love it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, record comes out in September. What's the rest of this year look like for you guys and beyond?
I head out Monday to start rehearsals for our Zombie tour. I'd encourage everyone to check out the dates. We are playing both Zombie EPs. We're playing a number of new Color Decay songs. I imagine this won't, or by the time this comes out, we'll have released our next music video, our next single, which will also be playing on the Zombie tour. We haven't headlined a U.S. tour here since a bit before COVID in 2019, so we've got a long set. Dying Wish, Stray from the Past, Support, both bands rock. It's going to be a lot of fun hangs, and yeah, we look forward to it. Check out, we're grinding away at production, putting on the best show we have in over 10 years and whatnot, so we're very excited. And then later in the year, we head over to Europe. First time since the end of 2019 as well, supporting Wage War. I love getting to travel, specifically to Europe and outside the United States. So I cannot wait, by all means, to be back traveling mainland Europe, UK, and such. So a lot of tour dates. Another tour already lined up in spring that I can't talk about, but yeah, check out the tour dates, and we are grinding more music videos, more merch, with a band is by all means as active as ever. So I appreciate I appreciate you having me. I appreciate the years and years of support from Prada fans, and we're nowhere near done.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.